Welcome everybody out to another Game of the Month thing. This time around, we are talking about the PC, PS2, Xbox classic Star Wars Battlefront 2. So joining me today, we've got the one and only Red Mage and one and only Sir Lols. Zachary, Red,
hello.
How you both doing?
Doing good.
All right.
Thank you once again for joining me this month. It's always great to have people to do these discussions with. So, Battlefront 2. This one's interesting for me because I'm actually not the biggest fan of the OG Battlefront 2. I always found myself... I know it. But I always found myself going back to the original Battlefront over Battlefront 2. I don't know what it was, but whenever I played it back in the day, I'd always go back to OG Battlefront 1. So what about you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree to an extent where I found myself playing the original still. It didn't replace Battlefront 1 for me. I ended up getting both of the games at once, and I found myself just bouncing back and forth between them all the time.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, so there's just some aspects of Battlefront 1 that are very different to Battlefront 2, and it didn't feel like it was a positive or a negative thing necessarily. It was just different. And so I wanted to play both of them. And sometimes I wish there was a game that combined all of the aspects, and there never came to be. But
No, there didn't. Battlefront 3, what you could have been. I don't know.
Yeah. As for me, I say blasphemy, but I actually think I probably agree. Now, I still have a lot of good feelings for this game, but I do think that even the first Battlefront is slightly better in some ways, particularly the UI. Like, it drives me nuts that Battlefront 2 2005 has just text for its map previews. But yeah, so that's a later discussion though. But yeah, I definitely enjoyed it, but I think the nostalgia doesn't hold up as well because I definitely played it more than the first one. But granted, that was probably just 10-year-old me. It's like, oh, 2, that means it's better.
Right.
Now, I do think for me in particular, vehicle combat was more fun in Battlefield 2 than 1, but I don't know. 1 just had a lot of charm to it. I think I'm a fan of like less polish means more rough edges, but more rough edges means more unique things to do.
Yeah, it's one way of looking at it for sure. So I think I played this one on PC more at this point, but back in the day I owned it on original Xbox. I'd play it on Xbox Live. And like when you got that group of friends together to play it with, it was definitely like there's a lot of good times you could get out of this game. But I don't know, man. Like when we were trying to play through it for Game of the Month right now, it was just such a rough experience. Like we were talking about this the other day. Like they resurrected OG Xbox Live with Insignia, and Battlefront 2 got added. And so the very first day Battlefront 2 got added, I played it for about 2 hours on Insignia. And it worked really well. Like, it worked surprisingly well. Like, I was in a full 32-player lobby. That was the max for OG Xbox, I believe, versus PC 64 players. But, like, it ran really well. It wasn't super laggy that I could tell, but, man, every time we were playing on PC, like, the last couple weeks, it was just so jank in comparison. It was really strange.
Yeah, they fixed the servers, which was really cool of them to do, but they never really worked that well, or as well as I would expect them to.
It's time to go back to Game Ranger. You remember that? Like a couple of years ago, we were doing Battlefront 2 community nights, and we were all on Game Ranger doing that land tunneling.
I remember that.
Gosh.
That was a time.
That was something else. That
Post Game Spy, pre-Disney resurrecting the servers.
Yep.
Crazy times.
That was disgusting. Feels a little bit better than that, thankfully, but it still wasn't as great as I was hoping it'd be. Like for a dedicated PC server. But I mean, we did have like how many people in those matches? Like 50. So,
yeah, 50 or so. It felt pretty smooth most of the time. Obviously, it felt like a game from 2005 most of the time to me.
Yeah.
Might have been, might just be
2005 netcode.
Yeah, the PC version is scuffed to say the least. Like, it certainly feels like it would run better on a operating system that's been depreciated for a while.
Yeah, just a little bit.
But I mean, I owned it actually both on PS2 and original Xbox.
Oh yes.
Both discs died due to PS2 Slim, which that happens, and then the Xbox 360 that was vertical and then was made horizontal while the disc was running. So I've lost more Battlefront 2 discs than I've purchased because one was a gift. But they're good. It's such a good game that I have just always tried to get it. It's such simple fun, I think, because instant action is always such an easy way to hop into something without having to commit to a ton of time. Even like the Galactic Conquests, which definitely take a lot more time in Battlefront 2 compared to Battlefront 1, which is, I think, part of the reason why I would hop back to Battlefront 1. Is so super quick galactic conquests and stuff like that. But Battlefront 2, it's longer, which also has its own benefits. And instead of just bonuses, you unlock the units, and you can get heroes, which I'm sure we'll talk about hero gameplay later, has its own ups and downs, I'll say.
It's so
depending
jank.
on who you are.
So
there's
jank.
definitely winners and losers in that circle, I'll say. If you're playing heroes, but
Oh no.
overall, the extra game modes it added, I think, is what made me come back to it. Even though, like, I love deathmatch, team deathmatch, basically, or Slayer, or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just is it just Conquest, I think, in this game? I don't even know.
Yeah, that's one where you
capture
have to capture the
posts.
control points. Yeah,
Yeah,
command post.
I just love that one. So really super similar between the two games. So that was not a huge deal for me. But I also really liked Hunt and the other really small auxiliary modes.
Hunt
Even though
Hunt
when I
is
was
so
even
good.
as a child, I knew how unbalanced they were. How awfully, incredibly,
my God.
embarrassingly unbalanced and awful the spawning systems and everything were. It's incredible because it felt like I was playing a good game, and then I was able to go, you know what? I wanna play the room of video games, and so I'm gonna go play Hunt. Because it just is, it's good, but it's so bad. None of it functions properly, but it's glorious.
That's what I'm talking
how I
about.
feel
Rough
about
edges, man.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
beautiful.
Yeah.
The modes of this game are truly some of the peaks.
Yeah,
I think.
I remember one of the side modes. It was on Hoth, and it's like you versus the Yeti thing, and
Yeah,
it's
that's
just,
Hunt. That's Hunt.
It's so bad.
That
That's
was
one of the
such-
hunts. There's that one. There's the Ewok, one.
The Jawa one.
Exactly, the Jawa one with the.
No.
I think the Vaders are involved in that
Like
one.
the
I
little
don't remember.
shotgun they got. It's so bad. Oh man. But I think that's one of those lasting memories for me is Hunt. Like the rest of the game is kind of a blur. And like even between Battlefront 1 and 2, like it's all mostly a blur that combines together these days in my mind. But freaking Hunt, like that took the crown right there for just the most absurd moments that you could have. You're just sitting there playing as a Bothan, like trying to flamethrower a freaking Wampa as it's coming at you and beating you up. And it's like, oh my gosh. Like the Wampas were so insanely tough. Like you'd think it'd be pretty one-sided for the rebels, but
No, it's one-sided.
it's one-sided for the
way.
freaking Wampas, dude. Like
It's
they
one-sided the
never
other way.
died.
It was always my goal to be on the side of the other team, of the team that I knew had the stacked against them,
Mm-hmm.
and to than try my absolute hardest to win. And it was just once or twice, right? But when I, would be a sniper back and shooting the wampas and be like, screaming at my TV as a child, like, stop running at them. We're so close. We're like both at like 3 reinforcements left, and I see 4 of my guys run in, just screaming.
Oh my god!
But that reinforcement counter, to sort of pull off that, I think is one of my favorite parts about this series as a whole. Because I don't know if it's true or not, but it always felt like if you stayed alive once it hit 16, you were the last person alive, because that didn't respawn somebody again for that 16th player. So you just were actually able to be the last person alive, and it always felt to me like there was that small chance that you could become like the clone commando sort of thing, where you just 1v50
enter. Enable God mode. Enter.
Yeah, exactly.
No, man, it's the way that system worked in Conquest. Was always so fascinating, because like it didn't seem like it would go down when you'd kill people sometimes, because you had to have like a majority of the command posts to make it actually start going down, and other weird things like that. Like, I knew it so much better back in the day, of course, but
oh yeah, I don't.
Like,
There's a month is not long enough to know all that there is to know in Battlefront 2, and I think that's another one of its benefit. It's one of its strengths.
I will say, like, one of the games that we were playing the other night, like, we were down like 120 to like 280.
Yeah,
and then we got the ATRT that we stole from the other team. Excuse me. We got the ATRT that we stole from the other team, and just completely flipped the tables on them, because we were playing as the battle droids, the CIS, and I stole an ATRT, and then 2 of the other people on our team came in the AATs, and like we just were able to keep them on lock so badly that we turned it around, even though we were more than double like behind them. Like, it was nuts. It was so nuts.
It was so good. It was one of the best. It was just one of the best comebacks I've had in that game, and that's that kind of thing that was so good in that game. It feels it. The advertising for the game, I remember, mentions like even the back of the box, the back of the cover art mentions stuff like, what if blank won, what if the rebels won the Battle of Hoth, or what if the Empire won the Battle of the Death Star, you know? And it's like it really feels like that, even as not a child.
Yeah. That does lead me to one of my main complaints about this game, especially in the here and now, is how linear so many of the freaking maps are. It just becomes a battle of 2 choke points that you just bludgeon yourselves against until one team is out of reinforcements or the other. Like, it's kind of annoying.
Fest.
It's kind of annoying like that.
It's a World War I
trench warfare.
Trench warfare.
Because like the Tantive, Mustafar in a certain regard, the Death Star, like you just end up running into the same choke points. And, like, I think that's one thing that a lot of other games learned from this game, is just how to make maps have a little bit more of an approach to it, so it doesn't just become trench warfare. But
yeah, I think it was a learning experience for the industry from this game. To interrupt our conversation slightly.
Oh no, you're good.
Somebody, Wiz might be available. He's talking in the chat.
Oh, well, let's go.
And
all right, we'll be back. After
I know he
messages.
suffered through this game. So.
All right, a new challenger is approached. SMWiz has again joined us for this next part of the Game of the Month discussion. Welcome, Wiz. Glad to have you.
Thank you for having me.
So, continuing on with our discussion here, I wanted to start talking about the campaign mode. Like, we've covered some of the multiplayer, but one of the things that stood out, I can't talk. One of the things that stood out about this game to me back in the day and even now is that it had a very interesting campaign mode. So it followed the 501st between the transition from the Clone Wars to the Empire. And I remember really enjoying the storyline, but the missions themselves are basically just stripped down multiplayer matches, which was always kind of a okay type of a deal to me. Like, it's a good way to teach you how to play the multiplayer, I guess, but like, it's those cutscenes that came in between each mission that were really the draw to me. But what about you guys? What did you think about this game's campaign? I kind of divided down the middle on hating it and loving it personally.
I guess. Oh, either of you want to start?
Please go ahead.
Let's let Wiz go first. Let's let Wiz go first. Go Wiz. He was streaming the campaign, and it was quite humorous to say the least.
I run a family-friendly stream, and I managed to not use any of my driving words while playing that campaign.
Impressive, most impressive.
But, I liked the narrative, but that's it's the in between. So the voiceovers and the videos that they would play before the campaign mission, and then after the campaign mission, I enjoyed. The actual missions themselves were kind of rough. And it's funny because I'd never actually played Battlefield 2 before. I played Battlefield when it came out back in the day, but had not played 2 until just now. So I didn't have any kind of nostalgia goggles to go into this with. And I was trying to be understanding that, we're talking about a game that's almost 20 years old and controls and things are different. But there was a lot of kind of tedium in it. And, this is looking with nostalgia goggles back at number 1. It just didn't feel like it played as smooth. And smooth probably isn't the right word, but I felt like there was a lot more kind of stopping and forcing me to change classes, or, kind of points where I hit the wall and you just had to throw X number of guys at the problem until you broke through. And that was a little tedious.
Yeah.
But the narrative was interesting. And Ice knows that I don't care for the Star Wars prequel trilogy. So, I mean, for it to have a story that, I didn't just hate, I think speaks to, how well it was written.
Oh, man. Yeah, it was cool that they actually had the original actor do all the stuff, too. It just brought a sense of uniformity to it. But no joke, the narrative of that campaign is about the only good thing about it. It's really kind of disappointing, and it just made it insanely hard, even on the easiest difficulties. It took me 4 tries to beat the first mission just on normal, and I was like, I'm not understanding why this is so difficult. It's so ridiculous. And then you get to the space missions, and I'm actually decent at the space missions. And even those were just nah, you're dead, you're dead, you're dead, you're dead, you're dead, you're dead, you're dead. It's okay.
The vehicle combat felt very janky. That was actually probably my least favorite part of the campaign. And some of it, how tanky the enemy vessels were. And then it felt like the stuff that I was in was a paper airplane.
Oh, yeah.
Take one hit and die. Whereas I hit an enemy with 3 missiles and they turn around and go, what was that?
And then they kill you.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I thought was funny was the troubles you were having with Starfighter controls. And I was cracking up about that because that is literally the control scheme that they standardize for every single Star Wars flight game like this. Both Battlefront 1 and 2 reboots use the same exact flight controls. Star Wars Squadrons use the same flight controls by default. It cracked me up. It's no, you got a point. It kind of sucks. So why did they keep using it? It made zero sense. You could change things up, of course, but Like that being the default, it was just like, yeah.
Like, I mean, I played, you know, Star Wars X-Wing and Star Wars TIE Fighter on PC back in the day, and that required you had a joystick. But then playing, you know, the Rogue Squadron trilogy, like, it felt like they really polished how flight mechanics work. So I was very thrown off when I booted up the Battlefront 2 and jumped in my first space mission, and it didn't control like Rogue Squadron did.
Nope.
And I wasn't ready or anticipating that. And so I'm like, okay, fine, it's its own thing. We'll get into this. But just the way that they chose to handle, like, you know, pitch and yaw, like, it just threw me off, and I felt like I was just, you know, kind of hitting my head against the controls while doing the space missions.
Yeah. So
I'm a boarder. I clone Marine. I'll just go destroy the shield generator from the inside. Make the space mission real short.
yeah.
I'll shoot all my missiles at the frigate, get the frigate destroyed, get the war hero, and then land in, and then destroy from the inside.
Oh yeah.
It works every time. Works every time.
I love that there's a bit more strategy in the space battles, on the multiplayer side, especially of getting your crew and like getting a full 4-person contingent in the LAAT or whatever the droid bomber one was. I don't remember what it was called. And like landing that in the other ships. So that way you had a spawn point in the enemy base and then everyone would just insta spawn on it. Like there was some really fun times to be had there, and you'd have your defenders that were always setting up the debt charges on the transport ship to try to clear it out. Like those are some highlights from, like, some other highlights for me from the multiplayer, at least. Like, again, I just don't really have the fondest memories of this game outside of a couple exceptions here and there, like that and Hunt that we were talking about earlier.
Always Hunt, man. It's so good.
But I mean, the funny thing is most of them have come from the community nights that we used to have, like back in 2016, early 2017, before Battlefront 2 2017 came out. Like when we were playing this on Game Ranger, like that's where most of my good memories from this game come from. Like I just have never really held this game in that high of regards prior, like, because it's just
6 years ago.
It's just jank, man. Like it's just a jank game.
It's jank in a way that I find slightly endearing, which I definitely
that's
acknowledge
like,
is to nostalgia, most, like, somewhat.
Hey, there's
but there's
nothing wrong
also
with
sometimes it's also just good to load it in and just see your guy run against a wall and swear him out a little, and then run around the corner and the enemy's running against the same wall on the other side, and you're like, oh well, you know, at least it's balanced in that way.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
It's jank, but everyone's jank, and if you learn, it's like most games that got that slight lack of polish, where if you just give it enough learning, you're able to get a real good.
So that's
real
the
good
thing.
reaction out of it.
That's the thing that was the worst about Star Wars games in that time. You go from Rogue Squadron 1 and Rogue Squadron 2 to like the Jedi Starfighter series and the Starfighter series, like, wow, these suck. And then you go to Battlefront 2 and it's like, oh man, this is even worse somehow. Like, what is going on? And then you get like a good narrative game like Bounty Hunter, and it's like, Bounty Hunter's still a little jank in a lot of ways too, but it's like, nah, the narrative's good, so we'll forgive it. But oh man, like that's why I love and hate this era of Star Wars games so much. Like it's so
there's a
good.
lot of them.
The one thing I think Battlefront 2 does very well though is it's a very easy pick up and play game, which is I think that's where the endearment really comes in, because when you go for things like story, sure, there are better Star Wars games that, you know, have a better story. If you want flight, sure, there might be better flight games. But as far as a boots on the ground, massive warfare game, this really was the only option for Star Wars.
Yeah.
And even if it's imperfect, there's just something charming about, you know, plugging in a second controller, or 4 if you're on an Xbox, and just, you know, just mindlessly killing the AI, you know?
Yeah.
It was one of those games that, even though it was obviously designed to have online play, its offline support was phenomenal.
Yeah, it's true. Oh,
Yeah.
man.
I mean, even the campaign you could do co-op. Me and a buddy did it co-op and swore each other out like crazy in the summer of I think it was like 07 or 08,
Oh, man.
something like that.
That's
Like,
something
good stuff.
unique to the Xbox version too, is it has 4-player split screen co-op, which is
Yeah.
something even Halo didn't have.
Yeah.
Granted, that might not
Not
be a
on that,
fair
system.
comparison, but
Well,
yeah.
I mean,
It's-
let's be fair here. The original Xbox just was literally twice as powerful as the PS2. Like,
It was just a Windows
I only
machine.
had the Xbox version of that game, and then there was a while where I didn't have an original Xbox. Right after we got married, I only had a PS2, and I was starting to play that game again, so I had the PS2 version. I was like, this feels so vastly inferior. It is not even funny. Like, you go on the space missions, and they only have one of the secondary frigates that you have to attack instead of the two. It's like, okay, there's an entire frigate missing. Enemy counts are greatly reduced. Like, what is happening here? Like, this isn't the game I remember.
Yeah. It's a lot more grandiose on Xbox.
Oh, yeah.
And it feels less buggy most of the time on Xbox.
Yeah.
It feels like that's probably where it was developed. Because the PC versions.
The PC version's a
it-
jank port, man. It is a jank port.
Man, I can't get that to. Even
It's such-
currently.
It's such a
couldn't.
jank port.
How long did it take us to get going that
It
one
took
night?
us like an hour to get it working right.
Right. Oh my gosh. And then like you said, the PS2 is just nerfed in almost every way.
Yeah.
So it's just the original Xbox is a really great way to experience it.
I
love
honestly
it.
say if you have an
Yeah.
original Xbox and you want to play through this game, that's probably my preferred way to do it, even at the lower resolution, just because it works. Like,
Yeah.
it
Even
works.
a
You
360
can
emulation for it
experience
was pretty
the-
good.
You can experience the
recall.
action. Like, multiplayer is not going to be as easy to get insignia set up and all that, but like you can still get online and play multiplayer if you want to. Like, it's just
cool.
it's just less jank on original Xbox, and I mean that's the great thing too. Like, you could still buy this game on the Xbox store on your Series X and S, like if you got those, or Xbox One, and like you won't get the multiplayer aspect other than split screen, but like the game is still readily available. Like, that's probably one of the coolest things to me, like even on next gen consoles. But
And if you have when it goes on sale on Steam for $2.50, $5, it's worth it.
yeah,
It's jank is all get out, but it's
Yeah.
worth it.
like if you're only doing the multiplayer, the PC version's definitely a way to go. But like just from a
Or if you're
playability
doing
standpoint,
even just
that original Xbox version's probably my favorite.
if you're not doing campaign, it's probably fine because even Galactic Conquest was fun enough on PC. I did a whole playthrough of it. I did the clones one.
Yeah.
And it was crushed it. So fun to go through it. Definitely a lot easier as an adult than it was as a child. And I definitely still safe scummed once or twice when I felt like my AI buddies just weren't holding up for me. It's like, you know what? If every single match I'm going 40-2, I'm gonna reset. If some people go -10, just feels, you know what? Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
That's between me and who I.
The menus are also nicer on the console versions. I will say that. Like,
Yeah,
spawning into
that's
a new
true.
unit, like it's just such a nicer interface than the mouse makes it. Unfortunately.
Yeah, the mouse, especially when, like for example, for me, I cannot get it to load full screen properly.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can't even get it to stretch or anything. It just will not load full screen. So it's just a little box
Yep.
in the main menu.
Yep.
It's 480p, but when it loads to the match, 1080p.
Yep.
All
Dude,
right, sure.
If I tried
guess.
playing this game above 1080p, like it supports all the way up to 4K, but when I went above 1080p, like the UI shrinking was so bad. There were so many broken graphical effects. It's like I don't want to have to mod the crap out of the game to enjoy it. Like that's not okay to me. So it's like, all right, I'm just going to go back to 1080p. Like I just don't want to deal with this crap.
Yeah.
Now,
If
did,
they're-
I was going to ask something. If you guys already covered it, we don't have to get into it again. But what your thoughts were on the hero characters?
We haven't
Like
gotten
when
into
you-
that yet,
We haven't
actually.
gotten
Yeah,
to that
we
yet.
haven't gotten.
So heroes.
I was
Yes.
going to mention
yeah,
Hero
yeah.
Assault
Lead us off with
specifically.
heroes here, Red.
I think that some of them, first of all, it just depends on who you get, because some of them are really fun, but if you have a lightsaber character and you don't have throw lightsaber, it's not fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Period. There is no character. Yoda, not fun. My little green man is not fun in this game. Force push and force pull, do not do it, my guy.
Nope.
It's super bad. It's the worst part about it is the limitation of the map, I think. It's Mustafar is Vader and Obi-Wan. Period.
Mhm.
And it makes it feel limited in a way. It's like if you could, in maybe like instant action when you select the map, select which heroes are available. And it's like, yeah, that way I don't have to play Aayla Secura only on one of the worst maps in the game. I can actually play her on a map that's worth playing.
Yep.
It would be a lot of fun. But instead I don't. And I just deal with the fact that it's most of the time Anakin or Obi-Wan on the good side, and Vader, I have a hard time remembering the bad ones because most of the time I played as the Empire clones, and
Yep.
it was Vader, the Emperor, Boba Fett, who is surprisingly good. The ones with guns, also surprisingly powerful. Leia, like it's amazing what they did to completely boost the ones with guns to make sure that they weren't weaker than the ones with lightsabers that basically one-shot everything.
Yeah. That's
and-
yeah.
It's better against AI than it is against people, though. That's for sure. The health drains way too fast against AI on the hardest difficulty and against actual human people. But I think it's super fun. What do you guys?
That's probably one of the more interesting aspects of the hero gameplay to me, is that you start with a set amount of health and it just goes down as you play. And the only way to refill it is to go on kill streaks. So if you're really good, you get rewarded, and if you suck, your time's over real quick. So that's probably the best aspect of the heroes to me. But one of the things that I always hated about hero characters in this game was they were only given to players at the top of the current leaderboard. So you would just never see a hero, even if you were doing like really well.
Yeah.
Like you'd always have that one guy that's always above you that always steals the hero. And so
It was me.
yeah, it was red every time, friggin' red. So you just rarely ever got to play as a hero character unless you were just that top tier performer. So that's when playing, like, I don't know what the mode is called in the original Battlefront 2, but Heroes versus Villains, as they called
Hero
it in the
Assault.
reboot. Like
Is it Hero Assault? Is it
Hero Assault, there you go.
BF2?
Thank you. So that's why you'd play that mode, so you could actually play as heroes, but then it's just like this crazy cluster cuss of flying lightsabers and blaster bolts, and then, you're running around as Yoda because you don't know better. So,
And that, I think one of the power things of Hero Assault is being able to play those different characters in different maps.
exactly, you get to learn them. And
Yep,
there's
exactly.
there's a good variety of heroes in this game too.
It
Like
really
that's
is.
that's another cool aspect. Like there is a good variety of it. And honestly, I'm just gonna say it right now. I prefer Battlefront 2017, Battlefront 2 2017 over the original, like any day of the week, just from a gameplay standpoint and like just as a fun game.
More
But
polished. I feel like that's fair.
oh, dude, it's a very polished game. Like loot box
I've had a lot of
controversies
it.
aside, like that game, that game was my channel for what, like 2 years almost. Like,
We should do a community out on that
ah,
soon.
dude,
That'd be a
I
lot
only
of
have it
fun.
on Xbox though. No one plays on Xbox anymore.
I got it.
So
on
you should
Xbox.
just get it on PC. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
Oh man,
I do
Dude, I'm only
agree.
3
I think-
achievements away from 100% in that game, by the way.
Do you
but
not have
anyway.
EA Pass? Anyway, sorry.
But anyway,
Is it on that? I don't know.
So the amount of content that the original had, though, was like its saving grace. The insane amount of maps, the insane amount of heroes, like that is why you would come back to this game. And eventually, the reboot got to a good point with its amount of heroes and maps. Like it's still nowhere near the original, but I think it got to a point where it was like, nah, this is good enough for now. I want to see what the next game brings, but who knows if we'll even see a next game, sadly, at this point. But who knows? I'd be happy to see a Battlefront 3
is
at some
cursed
point.
no matter what.
Oh, man. Isn't that the truth? Like, they released a beta build a while back that was, I believe, for 360 that you could run an emulator and mess around with and see how it went, but... the cool thing is a lot of those scrapped features were in the PSP games, like transitioning from ground to space battles. Like that made it into Battlefront Elite Squadron. Like it was pretty cool. Uh-oh, we lost Red. We lost Red.
6.
There we go. There we go.
7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15, 16, 17.
He's counting how many heroes there are.
21 maps.
Oh,
it looks like. Not space, not including the space maps.
Not including the space ones. I mean, the space ones were just all the same, just a different planet in the background. Let's be honest here. Like, there's no difference.
Yeah, which is why I didn't count them.
Yeah, there's no difference in any of those.
But that's crazy. And some of them were only available for Xbox with Xbox Live Patch.
Oh, yeah, yeah. You got free content updates. I think there was one paid DLC for Battlefront 2 back in the day.
Wait.
I can't remember.
It's not even on PC. Wait. Okay, hold on. At some point, we got to do a mod. Like, I know we don't want to mod all the time, but it comes with Kit Fisto and Asajj Ventress.
Oh, that's cool.
Bespin, Renvar Harbor, and Yavin Arena. What? I never knew about this. OG Xbox Live was one of the coolest things to ever exist, and I'm so glad I missed most of it. I'm so sad I missed most of it. Sorry.
OG Xbox Live was the greatest, because, I mean, look back at... We're just going to go off topic here for a second, but look at Halo 2, man. Like, Halo 2 on OG Xbox Live was, like, the multiplayer event of a lifetime. And then they came out with the map packs, and if you wanted to play them, you could buy them. And then 6 months later, they just, like, here they are, they're free now. Because we don't want to keep the player base fragmented. Like, here you go, just have at. And, like, by the time that game got replaced by Halo 3, like, you could just pop the disc in, get on Xbox Live, download all the maps for free, and it was just, this is glorious.
Yeah, that was the time to be alive.
Oh, it's so predatory now.
You mentioned, Halo 2, and I'm like, yeah, what I remember is day one, the exploit somebody found where you could, and this is, we're all old, you went to your telephone and you hit the hold button, and it would freeze all the other players in the lobby.
Stand by.
And so whoever hit hold didn't get frozen for whatever janky reason. So then you could run around going on a killing spree against the other frozen players.
Yep.
The other one that was funny was the like infinitely teleport chasing sword. Like if you aimed at somebody while you were holding a sword and hit the fire button, it did not matter how far away on the map they were from you. It just like yeeted your character at them and you bladed them. I don't remember what the exact name of that glitch the community came up with it, but it was funny because you could do it even to people like flying around in banshees. Just look up at them, swing your sword, and you would fly up and kill them, and then fall to your own doom.
And super bounces.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So looking into it, just to be back on topic more with it, the maps that were included were Battlefront 1 maps. Not all of them were included, but that's what they were. I didn't realize that, and that's
cool. Not sure if I ever did the DLC map.
That's super dope, and that's why Asajj Ventress is in there, because the Yavin 4 in 2003 Clone Wars, she fought Anakin there.
Yeah. That's
Sorry,
right.
reading the Wikipedia to learn more about it during the podcast or the vidcast.
Nothing wrong with that.
But it's really interesting. I really want to do a community night with this patch because I think it would be really interesting.
Nah, we totally could.
Because I have
Insignia set up on my box, and so
yeah, I got an
PC
invite
patch,
key, so I just have to actually set it up.
Yeah, Xbox right there.
Insignia is so good, dude. Like,
I got a Project Stellar on the way whenever that's done too.
Oh yes. Anyway,
Sorry. Separate. Anyway, Battlefront 2 is a really good game, guys. And
If you get past all the jank and
If we
the
get past
hero
the
restrictions,
jank, you have to be willing to accept some jank. You have to be willing to
you
accept
do.
its baggage.
But at the same time, at least for me, and I know it's a very like personal thing, but when I think original Xbox, I think Halo, and then I think Battlefront and like Republic Commando
Oh yeah.
are like the next two games I think
Dude,
of. It's
how
like those are like the
Good of an
three games.
console exclusive was freaking Republic Commando though. Like my gosh.
Yeah, what a good game. Maybe that should be
Oh,
next ones.
man.
But like again, the Star Wars in this era was crazy.
Yeah, we just
You know,
got
KOTOR,
so much.
KOTOR
because
comes to mind, but it's
we got
changed.
so
a little bit.
much.
But just like Battlefront 2 is one of the specifically because the original Battlefront comes to mind too, but that Battlefront 2 cover and everything is specifically so ingrained into my mind
Oh,
of
yeah.
original Xbox logo plastered on the top of
Oh yeah.
the best of the best for that console.
Oh yeah.
And I think it's a good game despite its jank.
Nah,
for sure.
There's something to be said about being able to enjoy a game even if it's a bit janky. Like I think that's something that's lost in today's gaming environment. Like if a game has even the slightest bit of jank, it's an awful game and the devs are awful people for making it not perfect, you know? So it's like give me dragons flying in backwards in Skyrim on PS3 because the system was limited. Like I don't really care a whole lot. Like it's a little janky, it's okay. Like even like I don't even know. I was playing I've been playing Spider-Man again on PS4 because I just got that PS5, so I popped Spider-Man in. I was like, "Oh, I never finished the DLC." So I started going through the DLC and just seeing some of the obscure things that can happen in that game. It's just like, yeah, it's a little jank. Like it. Like even the most polished of games can still have a little bit of jank here and there, and it doesn't mean it's bad per se. May you enjoy it? Maybe not, but it doesn't inherently mean it's bad. So Battlefront 2, yeah, it's jank. And even though I like the reboot a lot better, like, let's hop on and play it for a couple hours. Like, that's still fun. Like, it's fun can still be had there.
Yeah.
That's I think and at the end of the day, I think that's the most important thing with the video game, right? Is how much fun you can get from it.
That's
and I think this game will produce, especially like I said, with a DLC, it puts it at 21 maps.
Oh my
but
gosh.
with minus those 5, it's still almost 20. Still over 15 maps that are in the base game. I mean, as a kid, I never thought I would be able to play all of them in a reasonable amount of time, and I knew I wouldn't be able to play them in one session without getting exhausted, and I never have because it's so much game.
Yeah,
It can bring you back so many times that even something back to Galactic Conquest, something I like specifically about it is it's different between the eras. There's different maps. Some of them are the same. I'm pretty sure Coruscant is in both of them.
Yep.
But there's a lot of different planets. Kashyyyk's only in the Clone Wars, or there's I can't think of the maps offhand. Sorry, I just looked at the list. It's kind of embarrassing. But there's a lot of different maps, and they're different between the like Naboo's only in the Naboo and Kamino are only in Galactic Conquest for the clones, and Hoth is only in for the Rebel era.
Yeah.
For example.
Yep.
That was a bit of a rant.
It's all good. It's all good. That's kind of the point of these.
But it's I don't know. It's just not really coherent thoughts when it comes to this game, because I recognize that critically it's pretty flawed, but
doesn't matter.
There's so many good things with it. It's just like I truly think that even if I hadn't ever played this game as a young person, if I went in and played it right now, I would have a blast.
Yeah. Yeah. I've always jank I don't think is inherently bad. Sorry to continue the tangent a little bit, but
it's good.
You know, the way I've always kind of seen jank in a game is an opportunity, because if the game is so polished it becomes sterile, what's the fun? I guess what I mean is like a good example, I think, of a janky game, Super Smash Brothers Melee, right? And there are people that hate the jank, but there are people that swear by the jank. So right or wrong, there is no right or wrong. You know, it's like, is the jank good for you? Good. If it's not, then don't. You know, but yeah, like jank's not necessarily a bad thing. Jank is just an opportunity for the game to have a unique element to either exploit or to contend over, and it's an opportunity.
I just got reminded of some of my favorite janky game moments, and they all came from PUBG back when it was on Xbox's beta.
Yeah.
Oh, not even the PC beta.
Oh, dude.
Oof.
Oh, man.
Jank games can be fun.
They
They
sure
can also get tiring.
They sure
it just
can.
has to be.
Yeah,
They have to be jank
it's
in the
not
right ways. Exactly.
Yeah, it's not a
Exactly.
guaranteed promise, but yeah, it's an
Exactly.
opportunity.
I still remember Dude of Rock's stuck in the wall and he can't move, so we just try shooting him out of the wall. I'm sorry. Devin flying down in the parachute without a head. Oh man, it's so glorious. But I guess we can kind of close this one off. I don't really have anything else to say about this game. Like, if you could get a group of people to play it, like, that's where it's going to really shine. The campaign has a great storyline if you can get past its absurd mission structure. And then Galactic Conquest, yeah, that's just a good way to spend a couple of hours just doing it. Like, you can just jump in and play. But I don't know. This day and age, I still typically go back to 2017 Battlefront 2, but like when people want to play it, like I'm happy to jump in. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, my final thoughts on it, there's just so much content makes it incredible. There's some stinkers in it. There's some the Felucia exists. CTF CTF exists. There's sometimes you can make CTF. I mean, yeah, you can make CTF fun. I had to think of an example. TF2 exists. CTF is fun in TF2. It's you have to try really hard, and Battlefront 2 did not succeed. But Conquest, crazy fun. Assault, the battles in the air, I think is what they're called. Also fun. And then Hero Assault, fun. Hunt, fun. All good. Instant action versions of all of those are good. And then Galactic Conquest. It's just, there's no wrong way to play this game. I think it's the best part. Every unit is fun. The engineer, you can use the fusion cutter to hack into other vehicles, or you can build turrets, or you can rebuild your medical droid, or you can restore your own vehicles if they're getting damaged. And that's just one of the units that each team has. And each team has the 2 special units, and that adds so much diversity to each of the each of the factions. It makes it worth playing. Every single version of every single map is each side, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So it's crazy how much they were able to spread out the content and not make it feel like they thinned it out just to make you have to play it in different ways. It's not. Doesn't feel like artificial endings or different endings in a different game, or like the bad ending or anything. It's just different ways of playing that are all properly good.
Yep.
Yeah,
like a fighting game.
Yeah. As for me, yeah, it's I definitely don't think it holds up as well as I remember it. But it still holds a special place in kind of like you were talking. It's got content and it's not locked behind any stupidity. It's just like, hey, here's a lot of battlefields, here's a lot of units, have at it, right? And I know bots are kind of a bygone in this day and age. Yeah, I know Battlefield 2 2017 technically has instant action with bots, but that's local only. With this, you can get some buddies in a LAN, fill the other team with bots, and just have at it, you know? So that's, well, there's definitely a lot more polish in the newer one. I definitely kind of enjoy just being able to turn my brain off and not have to go into a multiplayer map. Where, let me rephrase that. I can play the multiplayer without having to stress about actually competing against other players. I can just play the game against
fair.
bots.
That is fair. Oh, man. All right, Wiz, you got any final thoughts for us? Campaign master.
I was like, I shouldn't be the one going last because, you know, I'd be the dissenting opinion. To its credit, I will acknowledge that I thought it was nice that right out of the gate there were a ton of different modes available. Like, it didn't gatekeep. It didn't say, oh, you need to like compete, you know, or complete campaign on hard mode to unlock this, which a lot of games that era did things like that. So it was nice that just whatever you wanted to do was accessible right out of the gate. And maybe my mistake was playing the PS2 version. That's just the one that I have. But
Yes,
yeah.
that was your mistake. Your mistake
Yeah.
indeed.
Yeah, how dare I buy that case lot of games like back in 2016 or whatever it was that I did, you know? But yeah, without the nostalgia, the campaign gameplay didn't speak to me, though I thought the narrative was cool. And I mean, it sounds like where the value in this game lies is in the multiplayer. So,
Oh, yeah, definitely. We'll get you on the PC version, and you can hop into the like 164 player lobby that still exists with us sometime and experience all the glorious jank for yourself, buddy.
I really enjoy the single player if you're not playing campaign. I never click that campaign button. And honestly, I don't even click Galactic Conquest often if I want to just hop into a game. And I think that's, personally, I think that's the best way to enjoy this game, single player wise. It's just a game, 2 game, 3 games. It's like, all right, let me queue up. That's something I didn't even mention. The way you can queue up which games happen in what order. You're like, all right, let's play Hero Assault, the Mos Eisley Hero Assault. Then we're going to go throw ahead a Space Battle. And then we'll finish on Hoth. And then, well, yeah.
Yep.
But it's just the ability to preset it. You're like, all right, this should take that's like 20 minutes a game. I got myself ready, and so you can just sit down and focus in on that, and then it's finished, and it kicks you to the menu, and you're like, oh, right, I gotta do this or whatever. It's or you can play the multiplayer with people like us and just absolutely lose your minds when there's some people hacking in a game that came out in 2005 and
oh my gosh, so disgraceful.
Takes 3 hours to get it loaded.
So disgraceful, man.
Somehow it's still
how could
worth
that
it.
guy be that blatant of a cheater in a game that came out in 2005? It's like, how small is your dick, bro?
And it's still worth it to play, and that's what I think is beautiful.
Oh, it was so bad, man. Like that. Oh. See, I'd finally forgotten about it. Now you brought it back, and I'm just like, my gosh. It's 2005 game, and this guy's got an aimbot on. Like, give me a break. Anyway, I'm going to go rage about it some more some other time. Wiz, you're muted again, buddy. Good. You're muted again, Wiz.
Yeah, you're muted.
You're muted, buddy.
Does that make him any better or worse than somebody using an aimbot in Counter-Strike nowadays?
No, they're all dickless losers.
It's true.
So you got to go in with the copy pasta about you cheated yourself and the game.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Anyway, everybody, so Red, Wiz, Zachary, thanks again for joining me today in this month's Game of the Month podcast. We've been doing this like 8-9 months now, guys. This is insane. Let's keep it going.
Sure.
So if you want to join in on Game of the Month podcasts, there's a channel for it in the Discord, and that's where we talk about next month's game. So we'll be discussing that here momentarily, I'm sure. But thank you, everyone, for watching. Go play Battlefront 2 if you haven't. It's always on sale on Steam, or go track down an Xbox version and have fun. Just avoid that PS2 version if you want to not experience
You don't want to have
Wiz
a bad
did
time.
there. We're gonna throw some shade, I guess. But anyways, take it easy, everybody. We'll see you back next time.
Have a good one.